10 o'clock press conference on another matter at City Hall. So any questions related to something other than what we're here for, the mayor will, you can take it down there because we need to focus on this here. Okay, does that sound fair to everybody? Sound like a plan? All right. Mayor, could you please open up for us? Appreciate it.
Let me thank you. Thank you, Chief. And I want to thank the media for being here today as well, and thank the entire HPD department, especially these detectives that I'm sure that you'll be hearing from a little bit later. Chief and I have been in contact about the shooting of an innocent 3-year-old in Haviland Park, I think 11,600 Haviland, since March 30th when this happened. And again, anytime you hear of a shooting of a kid, especially 3-year-old, 2-year-old, your heart just skips a beat. You don't want it to happen in our city. And again, I said to Chief Acevedo, whatever resources we need to expend in order to bring people to justice, to find these individuals, is what we want to see happen. The toddler, an innocent victim, was at the park, went with his family when 2 groups of individuals, and I don't think we can confirm or say that they were directly affiliated with the gang, when 2 groups of reckless, cold-hearted individuals started shooting with absolutely no regard for the innocent bystanders who were out there. They didn't care about the children or the families that were nearby. This park has been a known place for previous criminal activity, but I will tell you we're doing everything we can to make it a safer place, and we ask the community to help us put a stop to the senseless crime. This park is a place for children to play and families to enjoy. To the family, I want to say that the entire city has been praying for your child, and we are relieved to hear that he will recover from his injuries. That is a blessing. Chief Acevedo will talk more about the 2 suspects who were identified and arrested yesterday. Less than a week after the shooting, I want to commend HPD for working around the clock to apprehend the suspected shooters. And to the public, I want to say this. We're just simply not going to tolerate crime in our city, especially not when our children are the victims. We've said that before. We'll say it again. The child may not have been targeted, but it's the mindset and the reckless actions of people who are intent on committing some sort of senseless crime on our streets that is unacceptable, and they must be stopped. And we must do better. And if you're a member of a gang or associated with a gang, it's time again to get out. If you know someone who is committing criminal acts in our city, it's time to turn them in and provide that information to law enforcement. And again, I'm asking people to stop the senseless shooting within our city. And the police are doing an outstanding job, and I want to thank them for what they are doing. We appreciate those in the community who are willing to step forward and help HPD in their investigations. And we know sometimes it's hard to be the first to speak out and say what you saw, but it is important to keeping our city safe. Now let me turn it back to Chief Acevedo.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you always for your leadership. Thank you always for your leadership and your support of our men and women, obviously for making our mission of keeping people safe and really bringing suspects to justice and justice to their victims our #1 priority. First, I want to just say that these 2 young detectives here from our major assaults team have done phenomenal work, along with our crime suppression team from South Gesner, that all work together collaboratively with the community to bring justice in this case. It's important to note, as the mayor said, that in this city, what starts off as a tragedy is the shooting of these young children that are the collateral damage of cowards that would just shoot blindly without any regard for the safety. Just think about this, at a park, at a city park. We have had probably about 24 young people, 12 and under, that have been caught in the crossfire of, like I said, cowards, most of which are either documented gang members or affiliated with gangs or suspected to be involved in gang activity. And I'm proud to say that in every instance we've, thanks to the dedication, the commitment of the men and women of this department and our communities, support and trust in us, we have been able to identify suspects and bring them into custody. But this case is ongoing, so as I go over it, We're not going to release the suspect's pictures because we know that a lot of these crooks are not just involved in the shooting that we are charging them with, but we know that there's a high probability, potential that they may be involved in other shootings, so we will not be releasing their pictures. But as the mayor said on March 30th, South Gesner Patrol officers responded to Haviland Park after a shooting occurred. Sadly, some suspects came by, started shooting, allegedly in the air. As those suspects were starting to flee in a vehicle, these two suspects that I'm going to identify here in a minute by name started to, can we find the picture of the actual victim's car? I might have handed it to somebody over here. Started to shoot at the fleeing vehicle, blindly, I would add, and as a result of their shooting at that vehicle, multiple rounds struck our victim's car, a car in which this victim was sitting in, and it struck a 3-year-old little boy. A 3-year-old little boy that yesterday the chiefs and I, the executive assistant chiefs, Finner and Slinker and I, went by to see in the hospital, and we are so grateful that God is good and that little boy is out of the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery. But that is just the grace of God, not the grace of cowards that committed this shooting. And so thanks to people calling 911 right away, HFD responding right away, taking them to the hospital, taking them to Memorial Hermann, which is a phenomenal place. This young boy is now home with his family and his way to recovering. Detectives assigned the Major Assault Squad 5, to the two heroes right here to my left, were able to identify these two suspects, and the suspects have now been arrested. They're behind bars where they belong. And I'm glad to say that not only are they behind bars where they belong, they actually, for once, on a rare occasion, we're seeing that, thanks to Judge Roll, R-O-L-L, that one of the suspects who was actually, listen to what I'm about to say, it's really important, who was actually on a bond for another aggravated robbery, a $30,000 bond. That suspect, and I might add that aggravated robbery was at the same park. So he came back and now shot a kid. He was on a $30,000 bond, and I'm very grateful to Judge Roll for revoking that bond now that he has been charged with aggravated assault of one count of aggravated assault and one count of injury to a child, both felonies. So thanks to Judge Roll, that suspect who had already been charged with an aggravated robbery at the same park is now behind bars with his bond revoked where he belongs. The second suspect was actually on a surety bond of $1,000 after he had been arrested previously, and you're not going to believe it, but guess where he got arrested with the firearm? At the same park. And he was out on a $1,000 surety bond, and I'm grateful that now that he's been charged in this case with one count of aggravated assault and one count of injury to a child, he's now behind bars, thanks to Judge Roll, on pending $200,000 bonds that he must come up with. I want to tell this community and remind them that, Mayor, when you brought me here in 2016, we put this team together, that we did not have a major assaults unit like we have now. And we were just talking about the fact that the way that we can reduce homicides is to solve and bring to justice suspects involved in aggravated assaults or attempted murders. And I'm really grateful that as of this morning, we are down 15% in our homicide rate compared to last year and the year before. So we're off to a good start.
15% down.
15% down. We are down 15%. Yes, sir. This is the car that little child, little 3-year-old boy, was sitting in, minding his own business, when these individuals decided to wildly shoot and shot this car. And again, by the basic grace of God, we don't have a dead child. Let me close on my part by saying that there's a lot of folks that want us to agree to. We had the misdemeanor bond issue We're not talking about misdemeanors here. We're talking about violent felons, and not all misdemeanors are the same. People that are involved in gang activity, people that are part of that gang culture, they're carrying guns, firearms. They're not carrying them for looks. They're not carrying them to be cool. They're carrying them, in too many instances, to use them when somebody looks at them wrong, disrespects them, someone that did something 5 years ago, and these crimes of opportunity, these violent crimes of opportunity occurring. There are folks that want us to agree to wholesale, for felonies and bonds, wholesale PR bonds, and we can never agree to that because we have to base our decisions, like Judge Roll did here, on the totality of the circumstances, the totality of the evidence, and the threat that somebody poses to the community. And so I'm grateful that it appears as of right now that for once these individuals that have already violated the law before will not be out anytime soon, hopefully pending their trial to hurt anyone else. And so with that, I'm going to have our detectives come up here and introduce themselves. They're right out of Central Casting. They look a little young, but don't let their youth fool you. They are tough, they are smart, they are committed, and I am so proud of the fact that because this unit was formed and because we are jumping on these aggravated assaults in the city of Houston with detectives, with committed investigators, with crime scene, with our teams in the field that are out, crime suppression teams that are out with them looking for the criminals, we were able to solve this case, and with the help of the crime suppression teams, bring these suspects and put them behind bars where they belong. And so I'm grateful to them, and now I would let them go ahead and identify the suspects and their names, but we're not going to give up their pictures right now pending further investigations.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Officer Zane Brumley with the Major Assaults Division. It's an honor to be here right now. Proud to be here. Me and my partner here spent plenty of late nights identifying these individuals. We didn't have much to work with at the time. Just what we had was street names, but however, through some dedication here and through this tragic incident, we were able to luckily catch these individuals and, like our chief said here, put them behind bars. So one individual, the one who was on aggravated robbery bond already, his name is Leonard Butler.
Can you spell the last name, please?
Yes, it is B-U-T-L-E-R. And a second individual that was on...
Do you know his age?
I believe he is 25 years old. Yes. And the second individual here that was on bond for unlawful carry of a weapon, his name is Mark Wakefield, and he is 26 years of age. And these guys are believed to be belonging to the most wanted sect of the Bloods gang, which has a heavy presence in the area, which we're looking to target as well and bringing that down. So we're going to keep working on it, keep working hard, and I'll turn it over to my partner here to introduce himself and also speak on the case.
Oh, you shy.
Good.
Well, say his name. Say his name, will you?
And if he doesn't have anything to add, his name is Officer Matt Althouse. Proud to work with him.
Can you guys spell your own names?
Yes. First name is Zane, Z-A-N-E.
And
Last name is Brumley, B-R-U-M-L-E-Y.
Solid.
and then
Matthew. Last name is Althouse, A-L-T-H-A-U-S.
can you talk a little bit about, you said the first guy, the Butler guy was
Yes.
shot somebody allegedly there at the same park?
He didn't shoot anybody. He what happened is
It was a robbery.
right. It is an aggravated robbery. He somebody had set up a shop to sell food, just to stand. Leonard Butler approached him, demanded food. Didn't want to pay for it. Pointed a gun at the individual, took the food by force. That's what happened with that.
And when did that happen?
That happened, I want to say, back in December, if I remember correctly.
He has not been convicted of it.
Right. He's still
He was scheduled for court
Right.
yesterday, but these warrants were filed and he was picked up on those warrants.
And then in this case, what were they, they were just shooting or as far as you know, or?
Yeah, they were shooting.
You're
at-
gonna speak in
You're gonna
your-
say something.
Sorry. Okay. Yeah, they were shooting at that vehicle that was shooting either in the air, which that's what we believe is that they were shooting in the air just to stir up the crowd, and so they returned fire at that vehicle.
And is that park known for having activity all the time? I mean, questionable activity all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can speak on that as well. I used to work in the area. Wasn't about 2 years ago. And that park, it's kind of a thorn in the city side, I would say. Anytime you can drive by, you can just tell just by looking at it. There's all manner of activity going on. You know, you can find a gun there probably any day of the week. Like I say, that's why we're going to try and target it. It's not a good place.
We're going to take it back.
So.
But you know what? Let me just say this. We're going to take that park back. Families deserve to be able to go to park. Park space is not for gang members and people associated with gangs to go and rob people trying to make a living from having, you know, selling food and robbing them at gunpoint, and certainly not a place where children sit in a car end up being targeted. Look at, I think it was 2 nights ago, we went over to Midtown Park, where Trey the Truth and others put together a vigil that made me real proud to be a Houstonian, where unlike another city where there was a vigil for our West Coast Los Angeles Nipsey Russell, there was no stampede, there was no shootings, nobody shot. We came together, the Houston Police Department, with Trey the Truth and other artists here in our community, and we talked really, I think very plainly, that it's time for people to understand that only cowards shoot indiscriminately without regard to the sanctity of life of these little children. And maybe it's time for people to come together, and if they're real men and they're real tough, hey, we'll put together an octagon. They can come in and fight. They really can. We can sign waivers, and they can come in and fight. Because the same gang members from other generations, guess what? They didn't just shoot at each other indiscriminately. They ended up being men and facing each other. And it's time for that. And so Trey the Truth, Mayor, he wants to have a big meeting with us and you and talk about how we can do that. And so we look forward to that. And again, I'm just really proud of our team, because in 2016, on 11/30 of 2016, when this man swore us in and we were able to put this team together, we would not have had detectives run to that scene quickly and start working the case, because violent crime is like trauma. Right? You have the two, it used to be the golden hour in trauma, it's 2 golden hours and 2 hours in trauma now, supposedly. Well, the same thing happens with violent crime. The sooner that we can leverage our talents to fighting and investigating, the sooner that we can get justice. And I think as a result, we're seeing that. Let me just close my part before I turn into questions. Unless there's specific questions for the mayor on this incident, I think the mayor has a 10 o'clock press conference at City Hall. Anything for the mayor on this incident? Okay, Mayor.
Ride with me.
Does anybody need to hitch a ride? Does anybody need to hitch a ride? Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
I'm going to do Spanish real quick. Okay. Tú tienes los nombres de los sospechosos, ¿verdad? How do you spell the last name of Mark? What's the suspect's name?
It's W-A-K-E-F-I-E-L-E.
Bueno, hoy estoy muy orgulloso de estar aquí con el jefe de la policía del departamento de Houston, con el alcalde que tuvo que irse para otra conferencia, para anunciar que estamos muy orgullosos que nuestros detectivos han arrestado 2 sospechosos que pensamos que están involucrados con pandillas, que el día 30 de marzo dispararon en un parque, en el parque del Haviland Park, y desgraciadamente teníamos un niño de 3 años en este vehículo que fue herido por la arma de fuego y por los tiros de estos cobardes, que son cobardes. Estamos orgullosos para anunciar que los 2 sospechosos han estado arrestados, están en la cárcel aquí local en el condado de Harris, y están cargados con cargas de asalto agravado con arma de fuego, y herido a un niño también. El primer sospechoso, es importante que sepan, esta comunidad, que ese sospechoso en diciembre fue a ese mismo parque con una arma de fuego, un señor que estaba vendiendo comida ahí, trató de robar comida y se robó con una arma de fuego, que ya había asaltado a alguien. Y en vez de estar abajo en la cárcel esperando ir al juicio, lo soltaron con una fianza de $30,000, que quiere decir con $3,000 pueden salir. El segundo sospechoso también estaba bajo de fianza de $1,000, después que hace unas cuantas semanas lo arrestaron nuestros miembros de la policía en ese mismo parque con un arma de fuego. ¿Y a dónde fue? Al cabo de unas semanas, hasta ahí en el mismo parque, disparando como los cobardes que son, y un niño, gracias a Dios, este niño, ayer nosotros los jefes fuimos a verlo al hospital y tuvimos un gran orgullo, una alegría que cuando llegamos ya lo habían soltado. Sabemos que con el favor de Dios va a estar bien ese niño, pero un niño de 3 años no debe estar herido por estos cobardes. Quiero que sepa que el juez Roll aquí, estamos muy agradecidos que el primer sospechoso que ya estaba con fianza de $30,000 del caso del robo en diciembre, esa persona no le dieron fianza, está abajo, está en la cárcel esperando su juicio. Y el segundo sospechoso que está bajo la fianza de $1,000, gracias al juez Roll, lo que está ahora abajo en la cárcel, con las dos cuentas, las dos cargas, son $100,000 en fianza para cada carga. Eso es lo que tenemos que hacer. Cuando una persona está involucrada en estos delitos que son peligrosos, en esta violencia, no deben salir a la calle y buscar más víctimas. Así que tenemos que demandar que nuestra corte tome en cuenta qué clase de peligro esta persona es para la comunidad, y cuando una persona es peligroso, tenemos que tenerlo con alta fianza o sin fianza y que vaya a la corte. So with that, I'll just open it up to any questions. Yes, ma'am.
My first question is for the detective.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I read the charging documents. In them, it says that the mom of the 3-year-old was able to point out these two guys. There was some type of connection, like she knew who they were. Do you think she was targeted at this point? I mean, if she has some sort of relationship with these two guys?
We don't know yet. I mean, it's too early to speak on that. What we do know is that these guys were just firing recklessly, and they shouldn't have been doing it. Yeah.
And then my second question is for you, Chief. Just in terms of preventative measures to keep, we keep talking about the issue with gangs and the issue with violence, but kind of what are you guys doing on the preventative end to make sure that these young kids that are coming up don't join those gangs and don't get involved in that?
Well, it all starts with education, right? It all starts with the fact that it's interesting because yesterday I was at I started my day yesterday at 6:30 a.m. at the prayer breakfast, and at 6:30 p.m. I went to an event that was a gala that supports arts in the schools, right? Theater arts, music arts, things that we know that when children, my own little, well, he's not a little son anymore, I'm old, but my 26-year-old son Matthew, gift of God like you are, Matt, he was struggling in elementary school. He was struggling. And then he discovered music. And he started playing an instrument. And that really helped him blossom as a student. And he ended up going to San Diego State, getting his degree. He just got, I just got a call from him last week. He's working for Disney now as a production coordinator. We've got to educate kids. So just yesterday when I was at that dinner, waiting for the doors to open, I actually submitted a letter to the editor at the Houston Chronicle in response to their editorial about pre-K education, trying to get kids pre-K education, a full day of pre-K education. And the reason that's important is a lot of these, there's a real commonality between growing up for criminal, to become a criminal, to become a violent criminal, to be seduced by gangs, and a lack of education. Today's kindergarten is not yesterday's kindergarten. I started kindergarten in 1969 as a Cuban refugee, didn't speak a word of English, and now people are saying, I wish you'd never learned, but didn't speak a word of English. The only kid in the school didn't speak English. But that kindergarten started at 8, ended at 11. It was milk and cookie time, it was nap time, it was playground time. We learned our colors, and I learned a little bit of English, and we called it a year. When my son, Jake, who'll be 11 Monday, when he started kindergarten, he started at 7:35 in the morning, and he went to 2:35 in the afternoon. He was required to read, write, math, science, and thank God that his parents were able to give him a quality pre-K education because he went in not behind. Kids that are coming to homes through no fault of their own, that don't have the ability to go to a pre-K education, start school behind on day one, then they don't have quality tutoring and support, and they don't have summer programs. They don't have all those things that help kids be successful. They fall further behind every year till about the 8th or the 9th or 10th grade. They drop out, and then they end up being behind bars. So that's key. We've got to get the people that are born through socioeconomics that, because you know what? I'd rather pay $1 today than $100 18 years from now or 15 years from now. And so it starts with a quality pre-K education. Hopefully, Lisa Falkenberg and her group will print my letter. I can read it to you. I have it on my phone if you'd like me to read it. But I'm proud of I'm proud of Governor Abbott. I remember in 2008 that he was getting beat up by some folks because one of his highest priorities in 2008, I believe it was, in that session, he was getting beat up because he was accused by some to the extreme right that he wanted to provide $818 million for pre-K education, but only partial funding, so half a day. And I wrote an op-ed piece and I said, yeah, you're right. Those that were criticizing him because it was welfare, I said, yeah, you're right. It's about the welfare of children. Imagine that. Imagine trying to invest, and the governor understands that. And we're hopeful that the legislature will understand it, and we'll go from half days to full days and get these kids. Get them a start at life, man. Because I'm telling you, I don't care if people are born into a gang family per se, there's always those that can break the cycle because the frustration of not being able to be successful doesn't, when that doesn't take hold, you don't succumb to the perfect environment to succumb to the gang culture. I'm just telling you. I mean, I worked as a TA in Los Angeles, in El Sereno, and I remember people that were born into some gang circumstances that because we were able to really support them in the educational environment, they were able to break out of that cycle. And the parents that are gang members, I would hope that you would have higher aspirations for your children because there's no reason why we can't break that cycle. None. If we love our children enough. What else?
I thought originally I had read that there were obviously, suspects of these guys were shooting at a different group, and it just happened to hit that car, in the area.
Right.
Have we identified those folks?
We're working on that. This is an ongoing investigation to see who those other folks are. And one of the things that we really want the public, if they know something, you know what? Those fools that were shooting up in the air or shooting at someone were still part of the investigation. We need to bring those fools and have them arrested. Because I promise you, it's not the first time they shot. It's not the last time they shot. And we shouldn't wait till it's your child being put in the back of an ambulance by HFD and taken over to Memorial, not knowing whether they're going to live or not. So we're still calling on the public that knows something to come forward, to have the courage, and to do the right thing. And like I said it before the mayor said it, we're proud of the fact that our detectives, all these children have been shot in the last 18 months, about 2 dozen maybe in the last 18 months, 2 years. Every single one of those cases have been solved. Anything else?
Yes, sir. You mentioned a few minutes ago about the statistics about how crime go down here in the area.
Yeah.
Can you just explain that in Spanish?
Bueno, mira, acuérdese que en el 2016, cuando me trajo el alcalde aquí, Sylvester Turner, como jefe, no teníamos esta unidad de detectivos. Cuando una persona estaba disparada, si no era un homicidio, no íbamos a la escena. Y estoy orgulloso que lo expliqué a mi gente, que para poder bajar los homicidios tenemos que tomar los asaltos agravados con al arma de fuego muy seriamente. Y porque tenemos esta unidad que es bastante nueva, estoy seguro que sin ellos no hubiéramos estado aquí hoy hablando sobre la justicia. Y así, esta mañana estoy muy orgulloso que hasta este momento tenemos el homicidio, comparado al año pasado, ha bajado por 15%. Okay? All right, guys. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. There may be some heavy rain this weekend, so be prepared for sporadic potential for some flooding. Okay, turn around, don't drown. Please tweet that. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Hey. Wait. I can do it. How are you?
Yeah.